Whoa, 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 whoa.
What's the problem?
This
What's the matter?
This is not a Jet show.
So what?
So how about this?
Manning lobs it. Boris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Oh, come on. I don't want to hear this.
Why not? Super Bowl champions.
Doesn't matter. I just don't want to hear it.
What do you want to hear?
How about some Mets?
Hey, if I can find one good thing that happened to the Mets, here we go.
Home run. Mike Piazza. And the Mets lead 3-2.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be, I'm sorry. We all can't be like the Yankees.
Oh, speaking of.
This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Don Mattingly.
No. God, I can't believe I just said that. All right, well, listen. How about a little Nets?
If I have to.
Kid, the jumper to win it. He got it.
I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It's been a second. I can't take it. How about some Knicks?
Oh, yeah, big spenders. Can't win a playoff.
Fair enough.
Houston pops out up top, down the lane, running jumper off the front rim, and in.
I guess we should talk a little hockey, no?
People even watch hockey anymore?
They watch the Rangers.
Well, if you have the Rangers, you gotta have some violence.
Yeah, no, they didn't have a YouTube in the 80s.
All right, let's get the show started.
Here we are, polar opposites.
Hello and welcome to the Polar Opposites podcast. We are live right now on Spreaker.com. You can also hear us on polaropposites.podbean.com. We're on iTunes. We're on TuneIn. We're going to soon be on iHeartRadio. We're also on Facebook Live twice a month.
Yeah.
On Strong Island TV.
We are back in the friendly confines of Matt's apartment.
I'm Matt Stevens. Alongside me, as always,
is Craig Moffitt.
And Craig.
Matty, how you feeling, man?
You know, it's funny, but when you're a fan of a team like the Yankees, and
wait.
Yes,
I have to stop you there.
Yeah, sure.
It is the 2018 World Series champion.
Stop.
New York
We
Yankees.
stop. We stop. Yeah.
No. I don't want to fucking hear it.
No, you can't.
All
you
the Yankee
can't.
fans. Oh,
stop.
my God.
You can't do that.
No,
they didn't win. No. How can they be the favorites? They can't be the favorites.
They
didn't
are
win
the
No,
favorites.
the Astros are the favorites.
They will be the favorites.
Don't be that guy right now.
Okay.
Let me just say this.
Oh, wait. Everybody call me the bitter Met fan because they got Stanton.
There's going to be tons of bitter Met fans. That's just basically what the Met fan's going to be right now. Your window is a season.
Oh, we're officially irrelevant.
It's
again.
amazing. But that's also because of your GM. We'll get to that later. But when you're a fan of the Yankees, you always – when you hear rumors like from all the baseball talking heads, like the Heymans and all those guys, and you hear things, like, oh – the one thing every Yankee fan, or if you're a smart Yankee fan, you should always know is that even if you don't hear your team's name, your team's involved. The Yankees are always involved in some way, shape, or form, or they're always checking in.
Let me check
because
that.
this fell into their lap.
Let me check that. Teams hope
Yes.
the Yankees are involved.
But like
most 99 times out of 100, they are, but they kind of hang back.
Let me put it this way. Brian Cashman's never going to be surprised about the reliever market price value that's skyrocketing, like maybe the Met GM might be. But he's always involved, and this fell in his lap. So you know what he did? He went out and he got Giancarlo Stanton. He didn't worry about, do I have too many outfielders? He didn't worry about the money because we had to get under the threshold. He knew he was going to be under the threshold even with the thing. And the only way he would do it is if it worked in their favor to get under the threshold. He didn't worry about, unfortunately, the one thing he didn't worry about, we'll get to Jeter in a second, because what I've been saying about Jeter for years, and I've been saying it for years, is coming true.
You want to talk about a terrible
he's been brutal. He's been brutal because he thinks he can act the same way as he did as a player, as an owner, and it's not the same thing. But
actually, let me rephrase. Let me say that I kind of felt he was a bigger prick as an owner than he was as
because you just never saw it as a player because he had his stock and he never answered a question.
All of a sudden, he was like, "Oh, but we have to get rid of Stanton. If we don't get rid of Stanton, we're going to trade everyone around him. Then I'd rather keep Stanton."
But here's the problem. He never had to answer a question as a player, right? You can always be like, oh, my team, we're the great team, we're winning, blah, blah, blah. But as an owner, you actually have to have reasons for your actions, right? And he doesn't have answers for those questions right now. So he's going through a tough time as well. But they didn't – the one thing that – look, they went out and got Stanton. You can't argue against it, right? You can't – as much as I maybe say didn't think they needed that, which they didn't, you can't argue against it because he's a National League MVP. He had 52 home runs last year. He batted .280.
Listen, let me tell you something right now.
It's insane.
Okay. I credit Cashman 100%. Okay. The fact is he waited, and he knew he was going to get Stanton for literally 50 cents on the dollar. The Yankees are one of the few teams in the league that can absorb that contract. You know that.
Yep.
I mean, not a lot of teams can do that. Let's say that right now. So he took advantage. The thing is that Stanton, to his credit, was really kind of sticking it to Jeter because Jeter was inadvertently sticking it to Stanton. Because Jeter was basically saying, okay, well, we want to send you here or here. And Stanton's like, yeah, not happening.
Well, let's be fair. Jeter handled the whole thing wrong from the beginning.
Okay.
The first call he should have made when he became owner was to Giancarlo Stanton. He said, listen, we're not going to be able to afford to keep you because we're hemorrhaging money, which is true. It's all true. They're hemorrhaging money. But we're not going to be able to keep you. Why don't you give us a list of teams you are willing to go to since you have a blanket no trade? Mm-hmm. We'll sit down. I'll go over it with you. We'll come up with the best deal that's best for you and for us, and we'll work together to find you a great place to continue your baseball career. Yep. If that happens, he's probably on the Dodgers right now, to be honest with you, if that happens. But
I'm a little surprised that Stanton didn't want to go to the Giants. Because the Giants, although the Giants they were pretty bad last year, they're always in contention.
They were, but I mean, look, if you're Stanton, like, even if it takes another year for the Giants, you don't want to. He's like, he's never had a winning season, so you want to go to a team. That's why he gave him 3 teams. It was the Astros, the Dodgers, and the Yankees,
and the Cubs.
And
the Cubs, he basically picked the 4 teams that were in the Final Four last year of the playoffs.
And so, look, he comes to the Yankees, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do next because apparently Jacoby Ellsbury is super okay with basically being a pinch runner at this point, and he's not waving.
As long as he's getting paid.
Well, he's not waving his no trade clause as of yet, so they're going to have a glut in the outfield, which means
it's the easiest access to the World Series.
Well,
right
but
now.
Look, so he's going to be a pinch runner. So basically, you're going to have Aaron Hicks starting, and then you're going to rotate the outfielders, and everyone's just going to rotate, and it's going to be a big thing, and they'll all rotate through the DH spot and then through the different positions, and it'll be a whole thing. They traded Chase Headley today, which is another big deal here because now that means second base because Castro goes in the Stanton deal. So now you have second base and third base both open. Now there's a couple things you can do there. Does Todd Frazier want to come back? And does he want to come back on a
1-year deal?
Yeah, like a 1 or 2 year max, or like a 1-year, second-year option type deal because they got Andujar in the minor leagues and they don't want to stunt his growth. Does Gleyber Torres is going to compete? Now, Brian Cashman and this, that's why you like Brian Cashman. First of all, the Yankee GM and the Yankee owner actually talk to the media, which is one thing. Brian Cashman goes on all the radio shows all the time.
I've heard him, yeah.
He's on all the time. And even Hal Steinbrenner goes on a bunch. I mean, it's amazing how much he does. And he was saying, listen, it's like it's not Gleyber Torres' spot. You got to win spots. You're not given spots as a rookie, right? Like Aaron Judge is the right fielder, right? Or he has an outfield spot. Wherever that he plays is different. But Aaron Judge, Gary Sanchez, those guys have spots, right? So you have third base open, you have second base open. What happens now? They're going to let the kids fight it out. If Frazier wants to come back on a 1 or 2 year deal, they might do that. Or now that Manny Machado is out there, they may go and do that. But the problem is the reason that the Orioles want to trade Machado is because he wants to play short. He doesn't want to play third. He wants to play short because he's going to make more money as a shortstop hitting the way he does than as a third baseman hitting the way he does. Mm-hmm. Because Donaldson's also, I believe, going to be a free agent the same year.
Right.
So he wants to play short, so they want to trade him to play short. You're not playing short in New York. The Yankees have Didi. So we'll see what happens next. I wouldn't be surprised if the next move the Yankees makes, and maybe the last move, other than like small little
my
moves,
guess is
will be a starting pitcher.
They'll probably try to bring Sabathia back. I mean, that's kind of been like. But I know the Angels
depends how much money he's going to get offered. If they
the thing is, the Angels have been talking to him. I don't know what they offered or if they offered anything yet. But
if the Angels offer 2 years, $24 million, the Yankees aren't doing it. They're not offering that to him.
Well, I would think they're only going to offer more than a year. Outside of that, I mean, there was talk about the Yankees with the Tigers and Michael Fulmer, and that's going to probably that'll at least cost you something.
Well, no. Here, if you trade,
Michael Fulmer is a pretty solid pitcher, so getting him back.
If you trade for Michael Fulmer, here's the thing: Clint Frazier's gone in that deal. Yeah. Easy, because there's no place for him to play. So that's an easy giveaway for the Yankees. Then you're talking about Chance Adams and Justice Sheffield. You're talking about both of those guys. But the thing is that Michael Fulmer is just taking Chance Adams' spot. Like, it's not like you're trading for a guy who's not under control, who's not young. I mean, Chance Adams, I think, is 22. Michael Fulmer's, 24? I mean, he's not much older. So that's an okay deal. But you're going to have to give up because Fulmer, I think, has like 4 years left of team control, and he's got a lot of time left. So that's going to cost you a lot of prospects, but the Yankees have a lot of extraneous prospects right now because they have no place to play these guys. Yeah, they have no place to play them.
But the problem is, too, is they haven't really had to give up anybody big because when they got Sonny Gray, the worst they gave up was Blake Rutherford, and when they got Giancarlo Stanton, Jeter was so desperate to get out from under that contract, he basically only took two. Maybe. I mean, we don't know anything about the prospects.
But think about it this way. For the next 3 years, if you're an outfield prospect in the Yankees, the only way you're playing is if somebody gets hurt.
Of course.
Because you have Stanton, they love Aaron Hicks, you still got Brett Gardner.
It's one of those things that, this is just, I mean, Jeter just, I cannot believe how bad he botched this. Like, it's.
Well, look.
He botched it.
He botched it in the fact that, and if you listen, and I tuned into Dan Le Batard all week because their show takes place in Miami, so I wanted to hear. So I wanted to hear the.
You want to talk about an ass clown? That's Dan Le Batard.
See, I actually kind of like Le Batard, but that's besides the point. But I wanted to hear the Miami perspective, right? Because they got to be pissed, right? And they are pissed. And the thing they're most pissed about is the fact that when the city voted on the money for the stadium, it was under the guise that there's going to be no more fire sales, right? We're gonna get the stadium. We're gonna spend money. We're gonna win, and it's no more fire sales. What's another fire sale? Mm-hmm. They're selling everybody. Ozuna is going to be next. And think about this: Ozuna and Yelich are going to be next, and both of those guys make no money. When you're, and I know it's a lot of money, but in baseball world, it's no money.
But to be honest, the other person that's probably going to be next is Castro. Because I don't think Castro's going to be sticking around in Miami very often.
He's not. And the thing that would also piss you off if you're a fan of the Miami Marlins is as your fire sale is going on, because you need to slash payroll, Jeter's taking a $5 million a year salary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're Derek Jeter, you didn't make enough money in your life to where you could maybe take like $100,000 a year salary. Like, you made almost $300 million just from baseball. Forget about all the. I mean, did you ever watch a Ford commercial where Derek Jeter wasn't in it in New York when he was playing? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like tons of. So this guy comes in and look. You know that he was never my favorite. I never liked Derek Jeter. He was a great player. I'm not talking about him as a player. I'm talking about him as a person. He always came across as pompous. He always came across as that he felt like he owed nobody anything. That like him playing hard on the field was enough for the fans, for him. You know what I mean? Like he didn't owe them anything else. And he's acting the same exact way as an owner, and it's not going to work as an owner because they're going to hate you. The one funny thing they said on Dan Le Batard, I think it was yesterday or today, was that it's going to be funny when in 2 years Jeter has screwed this up so badly that Major League Baseball takes the team away from that ownership group and sells it to A-Rod.
I mean, listen, it's pretty bad, and while I said I understand the Miami Marlins aren't making money, that stadium I think was paid with taxpayer money.
It was, and that was what I'm talking about. Okay. They under the guise that there's going to be no more fire sales, and there were fire sales. There's a fire sale.
When Loria signed all those guys, and then he purged them the same year when it was Reyes and Heath Bell, and the list goes on, and now you have this. I mean, it's really bad. And listen, I had no problem with Giancarlo Stanton kind of taking a shot at Miami because
great.
They deserve it. They completely deserve it.
Yeah.
Because he is your moneymaker. He is the National League MVP, and you're basically treating the guy like garbage, and you're telling him like, well, you're going to go where I send you. And he's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And then
I have the power.
Then he literally backed you into a corner, and you can already eliminate 50% of those teams out of that 4 because you knew the Astros weren't going to go after him, and you knew the Cubs probably weren't going to go after him. So that only left the Yankees and the Dodgers.
I will say this. The Astros are stupid for not going after him because they could have put him in the full-time DH role if they wanted to, and he would hit 9,000 home runs in that stadium.
Yeah, but what are you giving up, though? And that's where...
Well, apparently not a whole lot.
Because the thing is, remember, some teams are not... I'm not knocking the Yankees when I say this, but some teams' payroll-wise just may not be like the Yankees right now. And the thing is, coming off a World Series... but there's other needs for the Astros right now. They don't need another outfielder. I'm not saying Stanton wouldn't be good for them. I mean, he'd be fantastic. He'd be fantastic on any team. But their strategy is probably not going after him. They probably view him as more of a luxury, whereas their bullpen was absolutely atrocious last year, and they kind of need some help in the rotation.
The thing that people don't get is that the Yankees are actually being smart with their money by acquiring Stanton. And I know that sounds insane, but they're $30 million under the threshold right now if the season started today. Now, they wait, I think it's until after the season to do how much payroll, how much of the tax you have to pay or where you are at the threshold. So they count in-season moves and call-ups and things like that. But the Yankees
have a lot of guys that are still on like team-friendly deals. Well, like Judge,
Sanchez, Bird, Severino, and Hicks are all making like combined like $3 million.
Yeah.
So, and Didi's not making a whole lot. And now you
he
got
just
rid of
traded
Castro,
Headley.
and you just traded Headley.
So now in a way, you can absorb Ellsbury now since he doesn't want to really
You can,
leave.
and you basically also just paid for Stanton with those two guys that you traded.
Mm-hmm.
And the Stanton deal, and this is, again, look, I get it. It sounds insane, but it's baseball money, right? So it's like monopoly money. But the Stanton deal, when you think about what Harper's going to sign for in 2 years or a year, when you think about Machado might get, when you think about what Donaldson might get, when you think about when Mike Trout becomes a free agent, what he might get. The Stanton contract in a couple years might be a pretty good contract.
Well, the thing is, at the end of the day, it's not the money I think that was bothering people. It was the years. And now look, hold on a second. I'm not done. So basically, my point is, I'm not saying, for example, like I'll use the Mets as an example. Now, he didn't really want to come to the Mets, but I also think the Mets could have made a little bit more of an aggressive push to try to land him. But that being said, they use the same thing. It's, well, he has 11 more years. What is it, like 10 or 11 more years left? But he can opt out after 2020. I highly doubt he's going to opt out if he's on the Yankees. So
apparently he wants to play he wanted to go to the Dodgers.
He wanted to go to the West Coast at first. Then it became the Dodgers because that's where he's from.
But let me say this, though. So if you're Mike Stanton, right, or Giancarlo Stanton.
Oh, now he's Giancarlo, because I remember a month ago when we were doing baseball, you were hell-bent on calling him Mike.
Well, now he plays for the Yankees. I will call him by his proper name, Giancarlo Stanton. Say the next 3 years, right? The next 3 years he has 45, 50, 55 home runs, okay? Each year, right? He bats 280, 290, whatever, has 120 RBIs, just raking, right? Crazy. Plays averages about 145 games a year, okay? He'll be 31 when he can opt out of that contract.
Okay.
Now, there'll be, what is that? So there's 10 years left, so it's 7 years, right? But that 7 years, say, 150 million. At that time, when he opts out, somebody might give him 5 years, 200 million, which is maybe less years, but it's more money over the life of the contract. And if you're Stanton, now listen, if he gets hurt in the last year, the Yankees are going to he's going to be on the team. That's the way it is. But if he rakes for a couple years, someone's going to give him that money. He's going to make it because it's almost going to be cheap at that point because you're talking about a 5-year contract. You're not talking about the 10-year that Harper, Trout, Machado, and those guys are getting. So we'll see. I mean, look, it's going to be interesting. The one thing that scares the hell out of me, about this team, and you should be worried about this because it's a major worry, there are a ton of empty at-bats in this lineup. There are a ton of at-bats where nothing happens in this lineup.
Power. They're all power or nothing. Between Sanchez, and I'll leave everybody else out of it because everybody else is about an average strikeout guy, less than 100 usually. So with Sanchez, Judge, and Stanton, you're talking about over 400 strikeouts. That's a ton. That might be like a team. You know what I mean? That might be the entire Houston Astro offense from last year. I don't know. I have to look it up, but whatever. So that's what scares you about that lineup is that there's a ton of empty at bats. Now, maybe Gleyber Torres comes up and everybody thinks what they talk about as being like a 330 hitter. Maybe between him, Didi, Bird, and those guys that they can cover the sort of average part of it and pick up the slack where those other guys strike out. But until now, you're talking about almost 400 strikeouts between two guys, and that's a lot of strikeouts. Yeah, but look, at the end of the day, the team is going to be a freaking monster.
But in the playoffs, Craig, they couldn't score a run from second because all they did was strike out.
You have the National League MVP and the American League MVP.
I understand that.
And the thing is,
you're facing all those great strikeout pitchers. If they striking everybody out, who cares if you can hit a home run?
Yeah, but at the same time, though, the Yankees teed off on a lot of those guys in the playoffs. They got to Kluber in the Cleveland series. They got to Keuchel in the Houston series. And those were two pitchers that always killed them.
They didn't get to Verlander, though.
Okay, fine. They didn't get to Verlander. Okay. And they didn't get to Brad Peacock either.
No, apparently not.
But I'm saying that, two of those pitchers who I'm not going to use the word dominate the Yankees, but pitched amazing against them. The Yankees got to this. So now imagine that lineup with Stanton.
No, I'm not saying that's the thing it's just something that you have to worry about a little bit because there's going to be a lot of times where Stanton is going to be up or Judge is going to be up with a runner on third base and 2 outs and he's going to strike out. So it's going to happen. You're just going to have to deal with it. This team is going to strike out a ton. You're just going to have to deal with it. And we'll see what they do pitching-wise.
I will end it on this note. And I think you and I can both agree they will be the 2018.
And there it is. The mute button. The great equalizer.
World Series.
Oh, never going to happen.
2018
No,
World Series
it's
champion.
It's not. You know, your jinx will not work here.
I'm not
sir.
jinxing them.
All you're doing is
who's
reverse
going to
the
beat
Mets.
them?
What do you mean?
Who's
going to
beat them?
Well, first of all, okay. The Houston Astros won the World Series last year and beat them in 7 games in the ALCS. So yes, the Houston Astros can still beat them.
Okay.
The Dodgers could certainly beat them.
No, they can't.
The Cubs could maybe beat them, depending on what they do in the offseason of their pitching rotation.
If Arrieta leaves?
The
Don't tell me the Nationals.
The Red Sox?
No.
The Red Sox won the division this year.
So what? And they didn't even make it past the first round.
They won the division. So
barely.
Yeah, and
they almost
lost,
freaking collapsed.
And they lost to the same team the Yankees lost to just a series later because the Yankees didn't play the Astros in the first series. Stop it.
And the thing is, the Yankees aren't even done.
Well, no, they're going to get Michael Fulmer. It's going to be fantastic.
See? They're going to get Michael Fulmer.
Now let's talk about the Mets a little bit because their GM came out the other day after the Stanton deal and joked that they didn't need Stanton because they had Brandon Nimmo playing the outfield. They're talking about second baseman, and even with the glut of second basemen that are available on the market, they're talking to Neil Walker again,
who apparently wants a 4-year deal.
Yeah, and Neil Walker's back is not getting a 4-year deal. And to be honest with you, the whole thing is still being held up. And, I hate to say it again, but David Wright is killing this team, dude. He's killing them. And I get he wants to come back, but he's killing them.
I've been saying that since last year.
I know, and I agree with you. It's horrible to say, right? It's horrible to think.
What?
We're not trying to be jerks. It's just business.
I'm going to be very honest at this point. We've talked about this about 1 million times on the show. Matt's made very valid points whenever we talk about the Mets. It just comes down to this. We have a GM, quite frankly, he's a douche. He's a complete douche.
Indeed.
And the problem with Sandy Alderson is that it's, first of all, he hasn't done enough to even warrant this sarcastic attitude.
Nope.
Okay? After a couple of trades and a couple of signings he lucked into, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because I don't care what anybody says, he friggin' lucked into Cespedes. And I mean luck.
Yeah.
Luck.
Well, because they almost got Gomez.
It wasn't even that. It was the fact that the Nationals were offering him more money.
Oh, you mean the second contract, not the trade.
They were offering him more money, and he waited till freaking January. And he got lucky because Cespedes wanted to come to New York. He didn't want to play for Washington.
Right.
If that was any other team that he wanted to go to, Cespedes was gone.
He was gone. Easily.
And he's just sitting there like he doesn't think it's a big deal. Now, look, I know Stanton didn't want to come to the Mets, according to Stanton. But that doesn't mean the Mets shouldn't at least try to make a pitch. What's the worst that happens?
Maybe Stanton wants to get back at his team for sucking. He plays him 19 times a year.
Stanton will hit 60 friggin' home runs in Citi Field. I mean, but you have to try to make a pitch,
but
right?
They wouldn't take the money. And the thing I don't understand is it just came out, I just saw the other day that the Mets still own 70% of SNY. They make a ton of money off that station.
But that's
where do they not do? Where's the money going?
But that's what I can't figure out. You're slashing payroll, but you're not giving people a legitimate reason why. Okay? Yeah. There's no legitimate reason. I could understand if, it was Bernie Madoff round 2.
Right.
Okay? But you're still living off round 1.
Right.
And what is that doing for you?
It's been, 10 years since Bernie Madoff?
Yeah.
10, 15 years?
I mean, quite frankly, if the friggin' Wilpons haven't made the money back yet, then you need to fire your executives because it's the only thing I can understand. But here's the point I'm trying to make, okay? You're trying to get people into the stadium.
Yeah.
Okay? You got to sell tickets, right? And I'm not saying the Mets aren't constructed to sell tickets. I mean, to not sell tickets. They're not the Marlins or the Cincinnati Reds. But the fact is whether you didn't get Stanton, that's fine. But go out and get somebody. Get somebody that people want to go see.
Get D. Gordon.
Okay? Go out and get D. Gordon. Or even make a run at J.D. Martinez. Get somebody that people will sit there. If I'm a Mets fan and I see they signed J.D. Martinez tomorrow,
right.
I would say, well, now I'm looking forward to the season a little bit because now I have a guy I can be excited for on this team.
Or call the Marlins up. You don't think they want to get rid of Starlin Castro's contract over the next couple of years?
I'd be all over.
He batted 300 for the Yankees last year. 16 home runs. He's a very good second, third place hitter on your lineup. You bat him in front of Cespedes. I mean, it's not a bad duo.
But here's the problem. And the problem is Alderson more than I think the Wilpons. The Wilpons are just sitting back like, whatever, we're making money, we don't give a crap, and that's fine. Alderson's pitching them this idea because that's what GMs do, right? GMs pitch this idea to the owners, and the owners make a decision with Alderson saying, yeah, okay, slash payroll. Okay? So the fact is, and then on top of that, I have a GM who's just being a smartass in interviews.
Yeah.
And let's call it what it is right now. Okay, that his comment about Brandon Nimmo is a slap in the face to Brandon Nimmo.
Absolutely.
And you want to know why it's a slap in the face to Brandon Nimmo? Because it was his fucking draft pick. It was his draft pick. It was his very first draft pick as GM of the Mets when he came out, I think, in 2010. So what does that tell you about who he's drafted? And then on top of that, he knocks the farm system that he drafted.
He's been the GM for what, 6 years now?
Just about 6-7 years.
So it's all him now.
It's all him.
Yeah.
It's not all the guys from Minaya have been brought up.
And let's be fair. Everybody you talk to about that trade that he got Syndergaard in, Darno was the main key.
Yeah, of course it was. Yeah. Even I know that.
Yeah.
He lucked into Syndergaard. Again, just like he lucked into Syndergaard, like he lucked into Cespedes.
But
again,
Mets
it's
are
just
lost.
But again, the Mets are officially irrelevant again. There's no other word to describe the Mets right now than irrelevant.
And it's sad too because they still have good players. I mean, next year you're going to go into the season with a rotation that's going to feature Syndergaard and DeGrom at the top. That's any team in the league would love to have Syndergaard and DeGrom at that.
But I'm saying, like,
put them together.
But then all of a sudden, after the Stanton trade breaks, now here comes all these stories about the Mets trading Matt Harvey.
Yeah.
Like, it was almost like a weird panic move. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And the thing is, why am I going to trade Matt Harvey at an all-time low?
For jerks and Profar.
Yeah, a crappy Rangers prospect who was supposed to be good but really isn't.
Right.
Okay? The problem is right now, if I'm going to trade Matt Harvey at any time, it's going to be at the trade deadline. Because I need to see what he can do, right?
You know, there's an easy way the Mets can kind of do some stuff to make their fans pretty happy. And it's actually two things that would cost you some money in the short run and not some money in the long run. You go out, you sign Todd Frazier, and you sign Eric Hosmer to play third and first, and you go trade for Starlin Castro. You can probably get all three of those players for about $45 or $50 million because Frazier, if you offer him enough years, he's going to take less money to stay in New York. I feel like that anyway.
Well, he's from Jersey, so
that might happen. And look, Hosmer's 28, 29. You offer him a 5-year, 140. You offer him the Cespedes contract. You know what I mean? You see what happens.
I just like.
Here's the thing: if the Mets offer people fair contracts and they say no, you can't get mad as a fan. The problem is the Mets don't do that. They don't offer anybody anything.
But here's what they do: they come out the day before, the morning of the winter meetings, and Sandy Alderson basically just says, "Well, don't get your hopes up, Mets fans, because we're not really going to be doing too much here."
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing was, I was listening to Joe and Evan in the morning. For the most part, I'm not a huge fan of theirs, but Evan made a really, really good point today, and it's an interesting debate because you ask yourself. It seems like Alderson doesn't give a rat's ass about the Met fan. He just wants to do what he wants to do. But sometimes you have to make a move just to make a move.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay? Sometimes it is about keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like, listen, if the Yankees get Stanton, fine. They made the deal. Congratulations to them, and so forth. But now the Mets have to figure out a way to get back, to come back. Okay? And what does that mean? Does it necessarily mean trying to sign J.D. Martinez? Not necessarily. I mean, there's other guys out there, like you said. Hosmer's out there. A guy like Lorenzo Cain might be good for center field. Again, it's not Stanton, but at least it's something. It's something the fan can get excited about, at least.
The easiest one is calling up the Marlins. They want to get rid of Castro.
Yeah.
Just call him up. He makes like $22 million over the next 2 years.
But the thing is, you've already sucked the life out of the Met fan before spring training. So how can I possibly get excited for this team, even though it's December and pitchers and catchers out till February? How can I possibly get excited for this team right now when I know that you're not going to sign anybody or at least attempt to sign anybody?
Right.
To at least get the fan base a little bit excited to buy tickets, all that stuff.
And then you're looking at Dominic Smith and Wilmer Flores at first. You're looking at an outfield where Cespedes plays, and when
Conforto's not going to be ready for opening day.
He's not going to be ready, but when he comes back, he might be the center fielder again, which is a bad idea.
They're
going to wait for David Wright to play third, and he's never going to be able to play third.
There is no plan whatsoever with this team. Okay? Make me the friggin' GM of the Mets. I'll get them to the World Series within 2 years. Because sometimes you just have to know. You have to know that if the Yankees going to make a move for Stanton, and the Nationals are always making moves, right? They're always making big moves.
Hell,
year
Arrieta's
after year.
agent's talking to the Nationals.
See what I mean? And the Mets are just sitting back, and you're better than half the teams in your division. And you're just sitting back, and you're just saying, okay, well, we're not going to really do much. I mean, if I'm a guy like Mickey Callaway, I'm saying to myself, I took this job because I really believe in this team, but man, this guy's not giving me anything.
Well, but it's not him though, because the owners love it. If the owners wanted him to spend money, he would be spending money, right? The problem with the Mets is that they and this is probably the biggest problem the Mets have is they are in New York City but want to be the Kansas City Royals.
And it's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. You got to spend money here. You have to, because if you're going to try, and they're raising ticket prices. Didn't they raise ticket prices again?
I have no idea.
So,
well, good luck with that, because you're going to have a lot of empty seats at those games.
And you know what's going to happen? The Yankees are going to get close to 4 million people again. Like, it's going to be insane at Yankees. It's going to be hard to get Yankee tickets again. And I'm not saying they're going to sell out every game, because it's a big stadium and tickets are expensive. But Yankee tickets are going to be in demand. When 2 years ago, they were talking about this is the Mets' time. It's going to be the Mets city with the young pitching, and it's all falling apart. And they've done nothing. They've done nothing to plug the holes.
But the worst part about it is, 2015 was a great year. They almost won the World Series. But then you figure they build on that a little bit going into 2016, right?
Yep.
They go out and make a few moves, maybe tweak the roster a little bit. And they really didn't.
Nope.
They did absolutely nothing. And they got to the wild card because they made a run in the second half of the year. The only thing they really did in 2016 was bring Cespedes back. And then in 2017, again that they have to make moves and everything. And they don't. They don't make anything.
Nope.
And now the only moves they're looking to make are guys they've already had here. I don't want Neil Walker. I like Neil Walker. I just don't want him back. We had him, and that was it. Jay Bruce. I don't want Jay Bruce on a 5-year deal, and that's what he's asking for. He wants a 5-year deal.
37 at the end of that. 36.
He's never going to get a 5. I'd be an American League team may give him a 4-year deal. I don't know about a 5-year deal. It's
four,
a bit
four
extreme.
seems fine.
Okay. And then on top of that, my GM is killing his own farm system, saying, "Well, we don't really have very good prospects." Well, you're the one who drafted them, so that really says a lot about your scouting department, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the one scouting these guys with your scouts and whatever. And, I mean, look, it's just getting to the point where it's tough to get excited for the season when you know your team isn't planning on doing anything. And that's it. That's all I can really say at this point. And I'm sick and tired of Sandy Alderson. You know me. I've killed Alderson a lot when we've done the show.
You never liked him.
Okay, I've never been a big fan of him. I thought he was very overrated. He was getting way too much credit for moves that he lucked into. And listen, at the end of the day, 3/4 of his moves didn't really work out.
Right.
At the end of the day, Zach Wheeler didn't work out for Carlos Beltran because Zach Wheeler can't stay healthy.
Well, none of the pitchers can stay healthy.
Travis d'Arnaud can't get anybody out, and he's always hurt. So the fact is the only guy who's really worked out for them besides Cespedes, and Cespedes for Fulmer was pretty much an evens trade straight up, was Syndergaard, and he lucked into Syndergaard.
And Syndergaard was hurt all last year.
Yeah.
And we'll see if he comes back and he can pitch next year, but we'll see.
But again, it's very tough to get excited for this team when you know they're not going to do anything. And it's very frustrating as a fan. I don't want to go buy tickets now at Citi Field. Why do I want to go? I'll just buy them on StubHub for $5 and sit in the 200 section. Because that's what half those games are going to go for.
I wouldn't go. And that's
and
the only way it's going to.
But
that's the only way it's going to change, though.
The thing was, last year was the same thing. I only went to one game, and I took my daughter because it was just something to do. To be very honest.
Yeah, no. I mean, listen, I don't begrudge.
But outside of that, like, there's nothing to be excited for at Citi Field this year.
No, and listen, they're in trouble, and it's because the Nationals are going to go out and spend money. They're talking to Arrieta's people.
The Nationals don't really have much choice at this point because next year Harper's a free agent,
right,
and
he's
all signs
go.
are he's not coming back.
Right, so they got to go for it. Plus, the Atlanta's going to get a little bit better. Maybe you think the Phillies will probably be a little bit better, and the Marlins will be the worst team in baseball.
One thing about the Phillies is I think they're going to be they're kind of under the radar right now.
Yeah.
So something tells me I get a weird feeling they're working on something.
It's going to be hard for the Mets next year. They got to do some stuff, and you don't like what you hear when Mickey Galloway comes out and says, we don't have a closer. It's going to be situational, which is the worst thing you could ever hear from your
See, I don't want a situational closer. Go out and get a freaking closer if you don't like.
They have two of them, and apparently they're going to use them whenever they want, willy nilly. Which means you're going to lose a lot of games because you're not going to have anybody who does it consistently.
The thing is, relief pitching is at a premium, right? I mean, most teams value relief pitching, even if the pitchers aren't really that great.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to spend money on a good relief pitcher, and you need a good relief pitcher, right, to go with Ramos and Familia. And Ramos isn't really that great.
No.
But again, it's just going to be this bargain basement crap, and you saw what happened last year when they did that. It got them nowhere. All their pitchers were terrible.
That's what they do, though. And they come out, and then Sandy Alderson comes out, and he says, the market for relief pitchers took me by surprise. Really? It did? Are you dumb? The guy got, 2 years, $11 million. That's not an insane even I know that's not an insane contract for a relief pitcher. And I've never been a GM in my life.
But it just gets to the point where you're just tired of the same nonsense, and it's never going to change. I mean, listen, you've mentioned a bunch of times we've talked baseball on this podcast, and you're right. And I think, listen, it's not like you're saying anything that's like groundbreaking. No. It's a fact. It's a fact.
It's just truth.
And the thing is that, you know what? This is when I used to love having Omar Minaya as my GM because he had the balls to go out and get somebody he wanted.
Yep.
Okay? In a way, it was why I always liked Mike Tannenbaum as my general manager for the Jets. Because when he wanted somebody, he just went out and got him.
Yep.
When he wanted Santonio Holmes, he went out and got Santonio Holmes. And Santonio Holmes helped us out to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't listen, everyone hated the Tim Tebow move when they made it, but he wanted Tebow, so he went out and got him. Sometimes you have to make a move to make a move,
and they don't get that. But so that's baseball right now. Machado is not gone yet. They're talking to people about it. There's rumors now that the Blue Jays might be trying to move Donaldson as well. With the Yankees and Red Sox being stacked at this point, if you're a mediocre Blue Jay team, a mediocre Oriole team, a mediocre Rays team, this is the time to trade off your big assets and try and reload because for the next couple years, it's going to be like 2003, 2004, where it's going to be Yankees and Red Sox because those are the class of the divisions now.
I think the Orioles will get a good package from Machado. Has he ever played shortstop?
He was.
He was a shortstop.
Yes,
okay, I stand corrected.
No. He came up as a shortstop. They moved him to third because they had a shortstop.
Okay.
When they brought him up, but the thing is that the problem here is that look, you assume you're going to get a good haul for these guys, but it's dependent on who's doing the trading. Is the guy doing the trading going to know what to get back?
Well, first of all, memo to the Baltimore Orioles: if you do trade Manny Machado, get pitching.
Pitching.
You don't need another Mark Trumbo type hitter.
Pitching.
You need pitching.
You score enough runs. Even without Machado, you'll score enough runs.
Say it with me. Pitching.
And the same thing for the Blue Jays. In that stadium, you're going to score enough runs. You just are. That's the thing about the American League East. All the stadiums are small. They're all small. You can score. Look, you don't need Judge and Stanton to score runs in the American League East. You just don't. So that's it for baseball right now. There's going to be a lot going on. The Yankees are, going after Fulmer and a couple other guys. The Mets are, the Mets, and we go from there.
I should have told you. You know what I should have told you to do before I came over? I should have had you get a sound of a cricket.
This is what's happening in the Mets office. Yeah. And of course, Derek Jeter is not doing a great job as a managing partner of a team.
You can't be an owner that learns on the fly.
And he is right now.
You have to know what your players are valued at.
Yeah.
And you can't sit there now and say, you can't start asking the moon from Marcell Ozuna or Christian Yelich because you just traded away Giancarlo Stanton for basically a bag of balls.
You can ask the moon for those guys because they're under team control and they have small contracts. But let's click with the NBA real quick because we got a bunch of things to talk about there. If we have time, we'll get to football, but the Giants and Jets are both freaking abysmal, and there's really no reason to talk about either one of them this week because they were both terrible.
You know what I realized? You don't like to talk about the Giants because they suck this year.
No, what are you talking about? What do you want to talk about? From the Giant game. Did you watch the Giant game? What do you want to talk about?
I sure did, actually.
What do you want to talk about?
It was one of the few times I've ever...
What could you possibly want to talk about that we haven't talked about 1,000 times before? The offensive line sucks. Eli Manning has no time to throw.
Eric Flowers has been better.
There's no people on the offense to throw to besides Ingram and some other people. And the defense, Landon Collins in a walking boot. Like, everyone's dead. The entire defense is dead at this point, okay? Steve Spagnuolo comes in and he says, I'm going to run things. I'm going to play this game. We're going to play to win. And then he punts on 4th and and 2 in his own side of the damn field in the first on
the 40.
On the 40. Like, come on, dude. Who cares? Who cares if you don't get it? You're going to lose the game anyway. Who cares? So there's nothing to talk about with the Giants, and the Jets decided just not to play this week. They decided to go into Denver, which was a winnable game for this week.
Oh,
they
sure.
decided to go into Denver, and they decided to go, you know what? It's kind of difficult to breathe in here. We smoked some good weed this week because we're in Denver. We're just going to relax this game. We're going to take this game off. And you let the crappy Denver Broncos beat you up and down the damn field. So why the hell would we waste any time on the two
hold on.
lackluster,
Stop.
terrible teams?
Well, the thing is, technically, you just wasted time because you just started running
I
your mouth.
did, but what we could have done
So
in
for
15 minutes, I did in
for
5.
someone who didn't want to talk football, right?
Those are my reasons why I didn't want to talk football. What I want to talk about is the Nets. You should want to talk about the Nets. Nets are dominating the Kristaps Porzingis draft class.
We got the steal of the. We got a blockbuster deal for Nick Stauskas.
I mean, look.
First of all, okay,
trust the process. Greg.
No. Number one, I love the deal.
Of course, you should. You should absolutely love the deal.
Okay,
you got the second and third round pick for nobody.
Right, and listen, don't get me wrong. I love Trevor Booker. I was a big Trevor Booker guy.
Good, sure.
But let's call it what it was. Trevor Booker was not going to be part of the future of this team.
Right.
This is his last year. He's going to probably move on to another team. I wouldn't be surprised if the Sixers flip him anyway to a contender later.
Maybe.
Okay, and then on top of that, you get a second round pick, which is not that bad either.
Sure.
So I'll take it. I mean, again, stash a farm player there. That's what the second round is all. That's what the second round is all about in the NBA.
Yeah, Kristaps Porzingis from Lithuania. He'll be in here in 4 years.
Sakalidis from Latvia,
Greece.
Okay, but listen, this is a low risk, high reward trade for the Nets because Okafor is a good player.
Sure.
He just got buried he's just not in the rotation in Philly, so it's not really a question about whether Okafor sucks or not. It's just the fact that they don't see him as a part of the plan. So he just sits and he's a DNP every game. The fact is, it's good because Okafor will probably play with a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder, right?
You would hope.
Okay.
You would hope.
And the Nets, I think, are doing the right thing by basically you're taking on guys that don't make anything.
Yep.
They make next to nothing. And the thing is, they could be on this team and have a role and thrive in that role. Okafor will probably come off the bench. I don't think he's going to start. Most likely not. But I don't even know who starts at center. I don't even know if it's Mozgov anymore that starts at center for them. But it's a solid move because you basically gave up nothing.
Right.
Now, the only thing that sucks about the move, and it's not a huge deal, but it is noticeable, is Okafor is an unrestricted free agent after this year.
Yes.
So if he plays really well, the Nets can only offer him a certain amount.
Right.
While other teams can come in and offer him a lot more.
Yeah.
So basically, you have to hope that he loves Brooklyn so much that he'll stick around for what the Nets can offer him, which is a possibility.
Well, maybe if, he sees, hey, these guys took a chance on me when nobody else would, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's one of those things, right?
And the thing is, when this team gets D'Angelo Russell back, it's going, they're going to be even better. So
he's coming back this year,
He is coming back. They just said he's indefinite. It was really like a knee scope, but they don't really know how long he's going to be out for. But it's a solid move basically because, again, Booker is not part of the future of this team. We already know that. Okafor, you're just taking a roll of the dice. You're not paying him a lot of money. He doesn't have a fifth-year option. So pretty much you have him for this year, and if you like him and you want him, you try to keep him here. Stauskas is just a throw-in at this point. I don't know if he'll have any type of role. I mean, he's a pretty decent outside shooter, but he hasn't been very good with either Sacramento or Philadelphia. So you might see him barely dress for games a lot of times, let alone make any type of significant impact. But it was a great trade, and the thing is, the Nets are playing really well right now. The Nets had they beat Oak City in Mexico on Thursday. They lost to the Heat on Saturday, but overall they're playing really well. They're getting good production out of Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. Karis LeVert's done a really good job taking over the point. Even guys like Jared Allen, the first-round pick, have contributed significant minutes and played well.
Yep.
So the plan is working. I think it is. I mean, because a lot of these guys have taken big steps forward in some of the second and some of the third year.
The other beauty of this plan is this, and this is something that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but when you think about it this way, it actually makes it even better. So you're taking the flyer on these two guys who were 2 and 3 in the draft, what was it, 3 years ago? Was it
2016, I think. It was either 16 or 15. It was 15.
So this is the third year of those guys, right? So you're taking a flyer on those two guys who become free agents next year and the year after that, right? So you have a year basically to find out if these guys can play. If they can play, well, then you just got two guys when you had no draft picks. You got the second and third round draft pick when you had no draft picks, and it'll be just in time to get your draft picks back. Mm-hmm. If they don't work out, it'll be just in time for you to get your draft picks back, and you know what I mean? Like, you'll be getting a high draft pick that year if they don't work out, which means they're not good, which means you're not winning, which means you're going to get a high draft pick when you get your draft picks back. So this is a win-win for the Nets, because the worst-case scenario is they don't work out, and when they don't work out, you finally have your first-round pick, and the best-case scenario is they do work out, and they become the players everyone thought they'd be when they were the second and the third pick in the draft, and you have a core to work around when you had no first-round draft picks.
But this is exactly what I also said about, the Nets and the plan. And the plan was, since you weren't going to have your pick in 2018, was to try to win as many games as you can, so the pick is not that much of a...
Yeah.
It's
a 10th, 11th, 12th. Right.
It doesn't really sting to know that it's not going to be in the top three.
It's not the first pick.
Exactly. Okay, because listen, we said it last week on our show, on the Strong Island show. Any pick over 5
makes the Kyrie trade
in the
suck.
NBA, yes. Because I agree. Because it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
It's a total crapshoot after the top. I would even say the top 4.
Yeah.
Because look what happened. The top 4 in that draft were... Russell was second. Was Wiggins in that draft? Was Wiggins the first pick in that draft?
No, it was Karl Anthony Towns.
Karl Anthony Towns.
It was Towns, Okafor,
Russell,
Porzingis.
Russell, I think it was Russell, Okafor, Porzingis.
Whatever. Those are the first 3, and then Porzingis was 4.
And who was the 5th pick in that draft from the Magic? It was Mario Hezonja from Spain, and he has done absolutely nothing. So, again.
Please tell me you looked that up today and you didn't remember that off the top of your head.
No, I saw it the other day.
Okay, good.
I saw it the other day. No, when the trade was announced, when the Nets trade was announced and they brought up the 2015, they did the thing, and he was the number 5th.
You can understand why I'd be frightened if you just remembered that.
It's disturbing.
It would be disturbing.
And I can't get a job in sports radio, if I had known that. But basically, at the end of the day, it's a low risk, high reward deal. The goal of this season may not necessarily be playoffs, but it's just more of making sure that draft pick doesn't sting. And for the Cavs, they could get royally screwed, because if Okafor plays well, the Nets could be challenging for an 8th seed. It's not out of the realm of possibility, especially when they get D'Angelo Russell back. We all know they can score. They have scorers like galore on that team. They just don't really play the greatest defense.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's an amazing trade for Sean Marks. It's an amazing trade for the Nets. That's it.
And the Knicks are, the Knicks right now. The biggest problem the Knicks have is that if they lose one of their top couple players, like if they're losing right now, Tim Hardaway Jr.'s out. Yeah. And by the way, us included, we laughed at the Tim Hardaway deal. Tim Hardaway's been very good for the Knicks this year. Been really good. In fact, they just won, I think, their first game without him the other day, and they barely beat the terrible Atlanta Hawks. They lost to Chicago in Chicago, which is a terrible loss. And the Knicks are at the point now where they have 2 guys in Porzingis and Hardaway who are not, listen, I'm not comparing them to the great tandems in the league, but they're a decent tandem. And they have a lot of role players who do well, like McDermott does well, Enes Kanter. That trade's actually worked out really well for the Knicks, man. Well, Enes Kanter and Doug McDermott have been good.
Well, one thing I'll say about the Knicks is, what you didn't really see last year was, I think their bench is a lot better.
Oh, it absolutely is. Their bench outplays. That's how they win games. Because their bench outplays other people's benches.
First of all, I love Enes Kanter.
He's been great.
I hate the Knicks, but I love Enes Kanter.
He's been great. And Doug McDermott's been great.
He's been actually better. He's been much better on the Knicks than he was on the Bulls.
And
he wasn't that good on the Bulls.
He's a much better defender than I ever heard or thought he was. So what you're coming down to now is that when the Knicks are healthy, they'll be good and they'll win games. But if they lose if they lose one of the secondary guys, it's one thing. But when you lose Porzingis and when you lose Hardaway, that's 28 points a game that you're not replacing with one guy. You're replacing with 2 to 3 guys. And so you're still seeing the progression of Ntilikina, who is very good on the defensive end. He gets tons of steals. He's got this huge wingspan. He's got like a 7-foot wingspan at 6'6", so he gets a lot of steals. He's learning offense. He's learning how to be an offensive point guard in the NBA, and it's taking time. So He's passing up a lot of open shots because he's trying to get other people involved. His first inclination is always to pass first. And as a 19-year-old point guard, that's a good inclination to have. I want you to have that inclination. Yeah. But I also need you to be able to understand that they're giving you an open three-point shot. And every third dime down the court, you should take it just until they start guarding you better, and that'll open up shots for everybody else. But that's a learning process for him. He's 19. He missed all of summer league because he was hurt. He missed most of the preseason because he was hurt. But he's playing hard. He makes mistakes. He also makes some really beautiful passes, like in the Bulls game. They even lost, but he got a loose ball, threw it over his head with his back turned, and got the dunk to Porzingis. So you like what you see from the Knicks in the fact that they're playing hard. They're playing hard on defense as well. They just don't have a lot of talent on this team. And if their two best players, who are Hardaway and Porzingis, are hurt, or one of them is hurt, they just can't make up for it. Michael Beasley can't make up for it. You know what I mean?
Well, Michael Beasley's definitely been decent.
He's been okay, but the problem with Michael Beasley is if he doesn't score and if he has an off night shooting, he is useless. You might as well just take him off. Like, he can't play defense. He fouled out in 10 minutes the other night. So that's what you're looking at with him. So, look, the Knicks are, again, it's what I've been saying all year. If the Knicks win 35 games, I think that's a really good year for the Knicks. Would you agree?
After everything that's gone wrong with the Knicks over the past few years under Phil Jackson, that would be
a huge year, I feel like.
That would be a monster.
That would be a stepping stone year to where you can get free agents to look at the Knicks now and say, that's a team that if I go to there, I can give them 10 more wins.
That's why you can't hire these guys with a lot of ego, as GM or executives and all that stuff, because it's their way or no way. And when Phil Jackson was running the Knicks and he wanted the triangle, it was putting a lot of strain on the players to the point where they were just frustrated with everything. And it showed on the court.
Sure.
It showed on the court with their horrible play.
You're playing antiquated basketball.
Yeah, because they were only doing it Phil's way, and they hated doing it Phil's way. Even Hornacek hated doing it Phil's way.
Well, it was like driving a Pinto in the Indianapolis 500.
Exactly. So the thing is, now you get rid of Phil.
It should be funny.
He leaves on his own. It wouldn't be funny.
The pace car, at least?
It's like that Herbie car, whatever the hell. Whatever.
Herbie the Love Bug? Don't bring Herbie into this.
Herbie
the Love Bug is a great car.
Yeah, but I'm saying it that you're
don't disparage Herbie like that.
Pintos wouldn't go very far because you'd be pushing them faster than they would be.
Well, if you be careful how you push, because if you bump into the back, it might blow up.
Yeah, or a Gremlin, or one of those. I
love a Gremlin.
Or those other cars. But the thing is, at the end of the day, now that basically Phil is gone, and to a lesser extent Melo, because Melo was really, not to say he was the problem. I'm not going to go that far. But you could tell that the team couldn't really go anywhere without Melo until they solved the Melo issue.
I mean, can you say Melo was basically the problem on the court? On the court, can you say that? Because look at the goal. Look at the Oklahoma City right now. They're terrible.
I think I'm not going to go that far. You want to do that this far?
I'm asking you. Looking at what happened.
The Knicks had a lot of problems.
I
think Melo was a part of it, and I think the Melo Jackson tension was definitely a huge part of it.
But looking at what's happening at Oklahoma City right now, right?
Right.
Can't you say that Melo might have been more of the problem than we thought? And his need and want to go isolation the entire time on offense, an inability to want to go around screens and move around to get his own shot. I mean, it ruins an offense. Ruins an offense.
I mean, listen, that team is centered around Russell Westbrook, right? I mean,
yeah, but nobody's playing well.
No, they're not playing well. I mean,
they're last place. But anyway, so listen, the Knicks and Nets. If you would have told both of us at the beginning of the season that we had this sort of optimistic outlook about the Knicks and Nets at the beginning of the season, we might have giggled at you a lot.
I would have thought you were crazy for me to think that the Nets would have 10 wins to start the season.
Yeah.
They're 10 and 15.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the fact that they have 10 wins with no Jeremy Lin and no D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah.
Okay? That's a testament to the coaching on that team.
And also to Sean Marks being able to find guys like Dinwiddie who come from the G League and all that crap. You know what I mean? Like those guys, people don't understand that finding a guy like that, what that does for your salary cap, what that does for just money in general in a cap league when you find that guy. It's like finding Victor Cruz. You know what I mean? When you find a guy that expects no money and you have him under control and he becomes really good where nobody else saw it but you, those guys they do such wonders for your organization. It's unbelievable.
But I mean, there are a lot of guys on the Nets right now. guys like Joe Harris. These guys were second-round picks that were playing nowhere, like when he was on the Cavaliers, and he comes in off the bench, hits a few threes, gets the team right back into the game just like that. I mean, overall, the way the roster's been constructed, it's a great job by Marks. And then on top of that, I didn't see that Okafor deal coming from him.
Nobody did. I don't think
nobody saw that deal.
I never heard the Nets involved.
Mainly because I never thought the Sixers would trade him within the division.
But the only thing about Okafor is a classic 4.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't fit in the system.
He doesn't shoot a lot of threes. He's not that. He's back to the basket, down on the low block, and he'll score you 25, 28 points down there.
Just play him to your strengths.
It's just you have to do the high-low game with him, right? You have to do that, and he's got to be better on defense. But this is up to Jaleel. Like he's given an opportunity now to play. Like you go in and you do whatever you're told, and you do it hard, and you'll make money at the end of the year. If not, you're going to get signed by a team, but it's not going to be for what you want.
And at the same time, you'll get a little bit of a reputation, which you don't want.
Yeah, you want the reputation the good way, not the bad way. And right now, you're the bad way.
You want to flip the script at this point because you're going to a new team. You're going to Brooklyn. You're probably the playoffs are. I don't want to go that far, but all he has to do is basically just play your game and just build up your reputation again. Because I mean, you were buried on the Sixers, and you weren't. And the thing is, at this point. Now it's just about play with that chip on your shoulder, get this team some wins, and you could be a key contributor getting this team to the playoffs.
We got about 5 minutes until we do closing time, so I'm just going to do a couple quick NFL hits really with you real quick, all right?
I got one for you.
Go.
Do you have the buzzer? Oh, you don't have the buzzer.
I don't have the buzzer.
The Giants are on the verge of hiring Gettleman as the GM.
No, stop. Just stop. Why? Why would you hire him? It makes no sense. Why wouldn't you wait to talk to the guy with the New England? Like, I don't understand. Why we're running to get Gettleman. What did Gettleman ever do? What did he ever do? Seriously, name me the guys he drafted. Show me the depth that the freaking the team that was under 500 the last 2 years. I mean, it's unbelievable. I don't want Gettleman. Now, let's talk about some on the field stuff. Carson Wentz gets hurt, which is huge.
However, I actually think Nick Foles is not a bad backup.
He's not, but he's not taking him to the Super Bowl. He's just not.
No, we know that.
I'm saying Wentz maybe could have. I'm saying that Foles won't, and it's delicious that the Eagles again.
So you got to be the.
I absolutely have to. I hate Eagle fans. But here's my question to you, real quick, and just like when are quarterbacks going to get it through their heads that if Wentz slides feet first at the 2 and then gets up and hands the ball to Jay Ajayi, who takes the ball the other 2 yards, when are they going to realize that that's more important than you diving head first into the end zone?
They won't.
When are they going to realize it, man?
They won't because they try too hard, and that's the problem. They try too hard. And when you try too hard to make a play, you're going to get hurt.
Always.
Okay, Wentz did it. Eli in the San Francisco game, I thought, did it when he fumbled the ball, but he went head first and almost got his head taken off.
Right.
Okay?
But for the most part, Eli just throws the ball away.
McCown's taken a beating this year as a Jets quarterback. Now, him being out for the year actually is could be a blessing in disguise because we lose out and we keep the draft. We keep a fairly high draft pick.
Right.
I understand what quarterbacks are trying to do at the end of the day because they're just trying to make plays. But you have to know how to slide.
Yeah.
And most quarterbacks now lately don't.
No, and I'm not talking about how Aaron Rodgers got hurt. He got hurt getting sacked in the pocket. That's different. That's just random crap. That just happens, right? You're a quarterback. But if you're outside the pocket and you get injured, it is on you completely. You have been given every protection, every single protection. But Carson Wentz, I'm a big, strong guy. I got to dive in head first so I can slam the ball down. Well, guess what? You're gone for the rest of the year. And not only that, maybe even the beginning of next year, too, because this is an ACL injury, so you don't know how you're going to come back.
And it's late in the season.
Look at Robert Griffin III. He never came back.
But it's also late in the season, and that's what you have to be worried about. If you're an Eagles fan, that's what you have to be worried about the most. Is if it happened week 1 or week 2, I mean, it sucks that it – but the fact that it happened, what are we, week 15 now? So this was week 14 that just passed because it's still –
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So week 14 – that's late in the season, and it's at least 6 months to a year for a recovery.
Yeah.
So you never know when you're going to actually hit the field and whether you can trust the knee again.
Who do you think now takes over as the favorite in the NFC?
What do we have? We have the Eagles in first, the Vikings, the Saints I think are in first, and who's in the West? Is it the Rams?
It's
it's got to be the
Rams.
No,
it's Rams, New Orleans, Minnesota, Philly, with wild card is the Panthers in Atlanta. So Seattle's on the outside looking in. So is Detroit. So is Green Bay. But
if
Aaron
New
Rodgers
Orleans
might come back.
If New Orleans could get their crap together with their defense, I think it'll be New Orleans. I don't like Minnesota with Case Keenum. I'm not sold. I mean, they've played really well. I'm not saying they haven't.
Yeah.
But Case Keenum in a playoff game, no. I'll pass. I don't think he's good enough as a playoff quarterback. But he's played well for the Vikings. I just don't trust him in a playoff situation. I would rather trust Drew Brees and their running game in that spot. Their defense has been very improved. But it's still showing signs of breaking. Like it's not really a strong defense, but they've played well.
Right.
If they can get their defensive issues fixed, I like the Saints to take the NFC for the NFC.
After the Patriots lose last night, and now next week's game isn't so much for home field advantage per se, because
man, I don't love the Steelers though.
Nobody loves the Steelers.
They barely got by the freaking Ravens, and I could see the Patriots blowing them out.
Yeah, the only problem is I feel like division games are different. If that game is against like the Arizona Cardinals, yeah, you can be worried about it. But Steeler-Raven games, no matter who's bad and who's good, are always close. I like that they won it. The thing is that if the Steelers don't get home field, they're not going to the Super Bowl. They're not going to the Patriots,
they have to get
and they're not winning.
Advantage.
The difference, though, is the Patriots can go to Heinz Field and win.
But outside of that, I don't really like anybody else in the East, in the AFC.
No, it's terrible. It's brutal.
I mean, I'll give you another team that I like. Just drive me crazy, and that's the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, they should be good.
They
but
are
they're
terrible.
Not.
They are not. I mean, granted, their record is 8-4, 8-5,
like
or something like that. You lost to the Cardinals and Blaine Gabbert 12-7.
Saxon.
And what is going on with Mariota? Like, I mean, Mariota should be playing 10 times better than what he's playing.
Are you ready for a Jaguars-Vikings Super Bowl?
I could totally see that happening at this point.
It's going to be the lowest rated Super Bowl in the history of the world.
And the lowest scoring Super Bowl.
Indeed. You ready to do a little...
Yeah, let's finish up our show. Wait, before we get started, one more thing. Next week, next Tuesday, we'll be back on StrongIsland.tv at 9 o'clock Eastern Time for our show. If you want to call in, Maddie, do you remember the number?
I think it's 516-944-9099.
945, I think 909.
945, you're right.
99. So again, next Tuesday, we'll be back on StrongIsland.tv, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. It'll also be on Facebook Live. Call in if you want to talk anything about sports. We'll probably be talking hot stove, football, anything we can get into. And it's very quick. But I think I want to do something a little different, but we'll talk about that after the show's over tonight. But again, next Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, we are live on StrongIsland.tv. Maddie, we haven't done this in a while. Let's do a little closing time. Closing time, as always. We haven't done this in a while, as we normally flip to polar bipolar, but since there weren't really a lot of topics for polar bipolar this week, we're just going to do a little closing time to finish up the show.
Sounds good.
We have 4 topics. Anything goes. Maddie, are you ready?
All
right. Number 1, the Brownies are once again blowing up their front office in hopes of becoming a relevant franchise, and they fired Sashi Brown and replaced him with former Chiefs GM John Dorsey. Owner Jimmy Haslam also announced that head coach Hugh Jackson would return for the 2018 season, despite the team only winning 1 game over the past 2 seasons. However, there are now reports that Dorsey could talk Haslam out of retaining Jackson past the season. Maddie, regardless of record, should Hugh Jackson return for the 2018 season?
I mean, look. How many games should Hugh Jackson have won over the last 2 years? He's won 1. How many should have won? 4? 3? 5?
It's all about progress.
Like, it is, but, like, is it really his fault? Like, really? Is it really his fault?
Well, 3/4 of those draft picks have been bad. So.
Right, and so he didn't draft them. That's Sashi Brown. And Paul DePodesta, or whoever the hell it is. It's DePodesta, right? So, like, yeah, no. And listen, let me put it this way. This is one of those situations where if they fire him, okay, you fired him. He was 1-20 or whatever it is, over 2 years. He won 1 game in 2 years. But if you don't fire him too, like, I don't hate Hugh Jackson as a coach. He was good with the Raiders in that that season he was there, and I don't think he's a bad coach. I just don't think that you can win in the NFL without a quarterback, and I don't think you can win in the NFL without talent. And when all your talent is 22 years old, you're definitely not going to win in the NFL. And it just proves again the point that Alabama could never beat an NFL team, even the worst team, because you see that the teams with all young players never do well. They just never do.
Look, at the end of the day, I don't know if it's Hugh Jackson's fault, but I need to see progress. And when I don't see progress, and I just see one win, and now you have no wins, which means you're taking a step back.
Right.
So in that sense, there is some of that on Jackson, because it means the players are not developing.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm not saying Jackson
Now,
is blameless.
Here's
here.
what I will say. There are some pieces on this team, and it's not like the Browns didn't spend money, in the offseason. They rebuilt their offensive line and everything. But I think Kaiser's actually taking some steps forward. I thought he played pretty well against the Packers in that game. I think the defense just collapsed.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
At the end of the day,
With
though,
Aaron Rodgers, brutal.
It's very simple. You hired John Dorsey to be the GM. If he wants Hugh Jackson to be the coach, then Hugh Jackson stays. But if he wants to bring in his own guy, Hugh Jackson's gone. End of story.
That's fair. Number 2, the hiring of Dorsey as the team's new GM happened so quickly that some thought it violated the Rooney Rule, where teams have to interview at least one minority candidate before making a decision on the position. At the time Dorsey was hired, the league was not aware of anyone else that interviewed for the position, but it turned out that the Browns interviewed former Bills GM Doug Whaley, which satisfied the Rooney Rule requirements. Craig, does the Rooney Rule serve any purpose when owners already have someone in mind for the position?
No, it doesn't. And I feel bad for minority candidates sometimes because I feel like a lot of these interviews are nothing but token interviews. Like, they really have to blow the guy out of the water, I think, to sometimes get the job. And I feel bad for them in that way because Doug Whaley went to that job. There was no way he was getting that job. They pretty much knew. I think they knew who they wanted. I think they had an idea of who they wanted because there was talk that they were so quick to hire Dorsey, they were afraid Dorsey might go to the Giants.
I know, I heard that.
Okay? In that sense, I guess it's a rule you have to have because, you want to see minorities get a fair shake in GM positions and executive vice president positions. Sashi Brown was African-American, so it kind of, the Browns weren't really like a terrible team with the Rooney Rule.
And the head coach is African-American.
Yeah, so it's not like the Browns aren't really following it. But at the same time, I just don't think it serves any purpose because I think if you really want somebody, it's going to be regardless of color, and you're just going to be doing it to just give the guy, we'll give him a token interview, but not a big deal.
But yes, and for somebody like Doug Whaley, who is already a GM, it's sort of a douchey move. But if you're an up-and-coming coordinator for a coaching job, or you're a head of player development and you're trying to get a GM job, the interview process, going through the interview process can be a very informative situation. And that's one of the very small reasons why it should stay as a rule.
I think it should.
But I don't think
it serves
it
any
works.
purpose.
It needs to be changed.
I think teams are only doing it just to appease the league by saying, "Okay, we interviewed a Spanish guy for the job, and we know he's not going to get it, but we just interviewed him." So.
No, I know, and you hope that they aren't doing that. You know what I mean? You hope that they actually have African-American candidates who they like and want to interview, but some of that's going on.
If I want a guy like Terrell Austin, the Lions defensive coordinator, coaching my team, damn right I'm going to interview him, and I'm going to get him in here to see what he knows and what he's good at and all that stuff. But, if you already know who you kind of want,
sure,
interviewing an African-American or a Hispanic coach just to appease the rule is just ridiculous at that point. I think it's a slap in the face of the people that are interviewing. So there you go. Number 3, LeVar Ball's other 2 sons, not named Lonzo, LiAngelo, and LaMelo, have signed with a Lithuanian pro basketball team and will play overseas. Ball recently pulled LiAngelo out of UCLA amidst an indefinite suspension following an arrest for shoplifting in China while the team was visiting for a game against Georgia Tech. LeVar pulled youngest son LaMelo out of high school, and both signed with agent Harrison Gaines, which means they no longer have a chance to play college ball. Matty, is this an overreaction to UCLA suspending LiAngelo Ball or a calculated move to fast-track both to the NBA?
Who knows with this guy? You know what I mean? Who really knows? Because I think he thinks it's a great move. It could turn out to be the worst move ever because you're not going to get scouted the same way over there that you are at UCLA. No one's going to get to watch you over there the same way you are at UCLA. It's just not going to happen. And if you think, and let me tell you something, there's a reason why they have the 1-year rule in college basketball to play in college. It's because 97% of the guys who came out of high school were bad and ended up not being in the NBA. You look at guys like Kobe, you look at guys like LeBron, you look at guys like Kevin Garnett, and they are the exception to the rule by a lot, okay? By a lot. I'm sorry, nobody thinks that LiAngelo is going to be that good. And LaMelo might be the best, but there's no guarantee at 18 he's going to be ready to play in the NBA. And I'm not sure if Lithuanian Basketball League is going to give you the type of competition that playing in the NCAA tournament gives you. The kind of atmosphere, the kind of big stadium atmosphere that you want in that situation.
Mind, here's the other thing too: is that these guys have been playing in that league for a while, and some are actually really good. They're better than these two.
Yeah.
So the fact is look,
they're not going to be the best players in that league.
Let's call this what it is. Again, it's just LeVar Ball just trying to make news, trying to make money off his kids because he didn't really amount to much as an athlete in whatever it was, basketball or football or wherever he played. So he's just trying to live vicariously through his kids. And the thing is that when you have Lonzo Ball coming out saying that, oh yeah, it's a good move, we thought of it as a family, I find that really strange to believe. And I think at the same time, you're doing nothing for them whatsoever by pulling them out of UCLA, which is a great basketball program. And the thing was, maybe if your schmucky son didn't steal a pair of sunglasses from a store in China, we wouldn't be in this situation right now,
well,
right?
Also, you are basically rewarding your son for shoplifting in China by pulling him out of school and let him go make money in a professional basketball league in another country. And he doesn't have to go to class. He doesn't have to do any of that stuff.
What you're basically saying, well, UCLA's being too hard on him, so you know what? Screw them. I'm going to pull him out of school because he deserves to be in the NBA, and he thinks he's going to get drafted by next year. I mean, like, listen, I don't know anything about Lithuanian basketball outside of Marshallonis from Golden State, but the fact is what else is there? Like,
there
I mean,
isn't much.
You cannot possibly tell me that this is the right move for your two kids. And what if they flame out in the NBA if they even get drafted? You know, no one's going to want to put up with LeVar Ball. I mean, it's bad enough they do it in Los Angeles with Lonzo, but they're not going to want to put up this crap with the two kids.
No.
So, no, I think it's just his overreaction because, again, it's just all about making news, and it's all about LeVar Ball. That's all it's about at the end of the day.
Always is. Number 4, the Thunder are currently in last place in the Northwest Division, but only 3 games behind the first-place Timberwolves. Adding Paul George and Carmelo Anthony to pair with Russell Westbrook was supposed to be a strong enough to big 3 to challenge Golden State, San Antonio, and Houston in the West, but early returns simply haven't been there. This will most likely be the only season where George, Westbrook, and Melo are together, with George an unrestricted free agent after this season and most likely headed to the Lakers. Craig, is it time for the Thunder to blow it up and start over?
Here's what I'll say, and you and I have talked about basketball. We don't talk about it much because we always say that Golden State, Houston, and San Antonio are probably the 3 best teams.
Yeah.
Right now, if you're going to blow it up, now's the time. And the reason why it's the time is because you're not going to beat Golden State and probably Houston and probably San Antonio. So I would rather build my roster now, knowing full well that maybe down the road I can compete when Golden State is not as good as they used to be and all that stuff. But here's the problem. You promised Russell Westbrook you would build the team around him, which means you're going to build it around superstars. You're not going to build it around draft picks. You're not going to build it around second-round international players that have been sitting in whatever country they've been in for years. You're going to build it around guys like Paul George or Carmelo Anthony. The problem is that you're also building it around egos, and everybody wants the ball. You just said it about Melo himself. Do I think it's time for the Thunder to blow it up? Yes. Do I think it's time for a lot of teams in the West to blow it up? Yes. Because it's just not working. For example, it's not really working in Portland with Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum.
I agree.
They've been the same exact team for the past 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it is time. And maybe it's time to just build the roster so that way when Golden State starts coming down, you're ready to make the move up.
You could probably put Memphis in that group.
Sure.
You could put Memphis in there. What other teams could you put in there? Sacramento. Sure, yeah. Goodbye.
Sacramento's been rebuilding since they first got it.
Yeah, I mean, Sacramento's been rebuilding since the 80s.
Since Mitch Richmond and Lionel Simmons.
It takes a little time sometimes. But, you know, the thing is it just goes to show you that just because you have 3 great players on your team doesn't mean your team's going to be great, right? It just doesn't mean that because the players have to be willing to play together. And the thing that always cracked me up about this was that when Melo played on the Olympic team, he was great. He was great. He was a facilitator. He would pass. He would play a little defense. He wasn't ISO. But so when he steps on an NBA court, man, it's like I need the ball. And you can't have 3 guys who need the ball on your team because if you do, you're not going to win. You're just not. It's not going to happen.
And it's going to frustrate a coach like Billy Donovan more than anything.
Oh, hell yeah.
But the thing is, again, in the West, if you're not going to overtake Houston and Golden State right now and San Antonio, and you're not ready to face Cleveland either. So I don't really understand the point of adding a big 3 to Oak City, and then on top of that, how's that working out for you? You're in freaking last place.
Yeah.
And even if Paul George is not hurt, I mean, it still doesn't matter. The fact is you're a last place team.
Yeah.
So you might have to blow it up. You're not going to because then that means going to piss off Russell Westbrook, and he's not going to want to be a part of a rebuild, plain and simple.
Agree.
So you're kind of stuck with it at this point. You reap what you sow. So at the end of the day, they should, but they won't.
Indeed.
And with that, closing time is officially over. Woo! And this episode of Polar Opposites is over. And we'd like to thank everybody for listening as always. Check us out at polaropposites.podbean.com, iTunes, Spreaker.com, TuneIn Radio, and also our past shows that we've done on Strong Island TV are available at strongisland.tv as well. We'll be back next Tuesday night. It'll be the episode before Christmas. We'll on Strong Island TV, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 516-945-9099 if you want to call in and talk sports with us. Again, next Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, only on Strong Island TV. And that's it for me. Matty, anything else?
No, that's it, man.
All right, so enjoy the week, enjoy the games. If you're Jewish, happy Hanukkah.
Indeed.
And we will talk again next Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time on strongisland.tv.
Bye.